Well, good morning for the third time. We have two more meetings, this meeting and next meeting. The next meeting in the beginning of May, my friend Iñaki, that I think most of you know from Spain, he'll be joining us. We were talking yesterday, and we'll do an overall review, especially of the dream yoga practices and the practices of cultivating lucidity during the day. So I hope everybody can join also next time. Okay. Are there any questions, any practical questions before we start? Questions about the practice? Everything is clear? Okay. Then I get that questions by email. And there was a question this week about how does one integrate, the practices from different traditions. It seems that we are, most of us have been raised, you know, Christian or Catholic or, and then we have studied these different more Eastern philosophy, or like yoga and meditation, and it seems that the principle. So actually some, let's say some groups within certain, or within the traditions, want to make you believe that things are separate, that they are different, no? That you pray to my God only because my God is the truth, and we call this one um, one book, one God, one truth. Okay, and obviously that's very problematic because then you just look at the news and see what's happening with that approach. Um, the approach of integration is very simple because ultimately, no matter what system you're looking at, you have to put that in the context of your own life. No? And in the context of your own life, it's very obvious what are the parts of, that as a human being you have and you experience. And okay, you have a physical body. You have an energy body that nourishes and activates that physical body. And then you have an emotional body, which, you have emotions, you have feelings, okay? You have a mental body, you have thoughts, you have points of view. And then this can be so broken, but just to make it simple, and then you have a spiritual body, which is, the spiritual body is divided in two parts also. We call it more of a psychic body, which is the aspect of the spiritual body that is specific to the person. And then you have a spiritual body that is like the all-encompassing spirit, I would say, no? Like the Tao, or, if you were, you could call it God. Or okay? So in my experience, and this I learned many years ago with one of my very dear teachers, Juan Lee. He was very sharp. He's still very sharp. He just turned 80. Every time I talk to him, every time I see him, he's sharper. It's amazing what putting these practices to in place, what making a consistent priority of focusing on these practices. It's amazing the change that makes in your life, over time. So he was very sharp in the sense of like, since an early age he was very interested, and he was in a context where he could explore different kinds of spiritualities, and he saw that different systems have different strengths. Okay, for example, Charles is here. Charles and I are acupuncturists. We have very familiar with a Chinese energetic Taoist system. Okay? So the Chinese Taoist system, for example, there's a big emphasis on health and longevity. So there's all the emphasis on practices like Qigong, Tai Chi, okay? And nutrition, breathing techniques. Okay, similar to the yoga system of India. Okay? not so much emphasis on devotion, for example, okay, or the aspect of prayers, or okay. So you have to take different systems. You have a system more like the Christian system that is a very much faith um, devotion system. And now we are in Easter, no? People are getting all emo and he has risen and all these things, okay? So you have to take a system and just observe what are the parts in this system um, that relate to me as a human being, and what are the parts that are lacking in this system. Okay, so I was raised Catholic and I have zero problem practicing yoga, practicing Tai Chi. Actually, we're having a wonderful conversation with Sean the other day, and I was sharing with him that I shared here many times. The more I study, the Hindu texts, the Buddhist texts, the more I do these practices, I feel the better I understand the teachings of Jesus, for example. Okay? So it's very important, I think, to have this wider open mind where you can just feel very at ease and observe what these teachings that are the roots of my tradition, let's say, of my family tradition, do they have teachings that are nourishing me, that are helping me improve in all my different aspects? Okay? And if it does, yes, and if it doesn't, so you have to, naturally look for them other places. So it's never an issue of integration as much as an issue of filling up the spots, what I need to continue improving as a person. Um, any system that is suppressing um, any aspect of humanity or of your person, um, especially any system that is suppressing any kind of natural desire or tendency, like some of these systems can be very hard with, especially with sexuality. Any system that is suppressing anything that is very naturally part of your being, or that is really trying to target you. I was just reading an article about all these conversion therapies, that were done in the 80s and the 90s, these hardcore Christian groups trying to convert gay people to being non-gay. Okay. And then, interestingly enough, some of the people who actually led the system turn out to, whatever you say, like come out of the closet and saying, this is not working, I'm actually gay too. So any system that is suppressing any part of your natural person, so maybe, maybe that part of the system is not so good. Okay. So I know all, these all make sense, but because there was a question this week. So it's not so much an aspect of integration. It's just simply of, you as a person, what things you need. You need to have a physical body that is healthy. And, you need techniques and, both in terms of movement, of diet, of rest, to keep that body healthy. Um, and then, you have an energetic, and, that goes with a physical body in that sense. And then you have an emotional and mental body or aspect to yourself. So much of our spiritual training, it's on how to first recognize what we're feeling, then understand why we're feeling that, and then learn what to do with it so we can be more at ease, both with what we're feeling and especially with what other people are feeling. So much of our emotions, so much of what we feel, it has to do with what other people are feeling, people around us, like our spouse, our kids, our immediate group, and then the group at large. So much of our spiritual practice, so much of this idea of creating a sanctuary of the heart is to have systems in place to understand our own emotions, and especially not to be afraid of what we're feeling. So much of these systems, or these traditions that try to suppress specific aspects, um, are because people, especially male, and especially this more male energy, because women also have these strong male aspect within their own personality, sometimes. So this aspect of ourselves that is very uncomfortable feeling, and is afraid of feeling things that don't feel comfortable. So, and this has a lot to do with Easter. Now we are in, Easter is, this, we call it Semana Santa, the Holy Week. I don't know how you call it in English, but, Friday, then tomorrow, then Monday, and people go, oh, he has risen. Um, yeah, he has risen. The question is not if Jesus has risen. I think you say risen. The question is, have you risen? Have I risen? Am I able to live a life that I can be a sanctuary of the heart, of love, of presence, of awareness, kindness, um, of reflection, of apology, taking care of my body, taking care of my mind, being of service to the community. That's the question. Jesus, sure. Any teacher that is not a narcissist doesn't care so much for praise to oneself. What you care is for whomever is receiving your teachings, uh, that puts them into practice for a way that is for the service of others. So this is why I posted this thing here yesterday. I sent it via full no Substack. Okay. He who perceives reality directly, even for the brief moment it takes to blink, is liberated that very instant. This sudden realization is the ultimate goal of our practice. Although the yogi, the yogini, the yogi's body and mind continue to function as before, they are like mere outer coverings which contain but do not obscure the mighty universal consciousness which operates through them. So the purpose of our spiritual practice is really to ultimately, through the supporting of our physical body and then the processing of our emotions, and the clarity of cultivating this clarity in our mind is to really be able to not break through, but to be able to see through all these constant influx of sense input, like the sounds, the sensations, the images, the tastes, okay, the smells. Once you can see through that, not because those are a problem. Some spiritual traditions are, discard, consider the body the disease, or all these natural desires as a problem. The problem is not that. The problem is grasping to those so tight. Okay? So this, from our point of view, the idea of Easter is not about specific Jesus himself rising from, the dead, or I don't know how you say it in English exactly, but he kind of comes back. Okay? For us, the idea of Easter has much more to do with each of us individually being able to go through this idea of distraction. Okay, so this is why also the other day we were talking about, um, even though the beginning of our practice is to arrive and then to soften, when we say, oh, he has risen, she has risen, meaning the mind has been stabilized. Okay? So this becomes much more interesting. I mean, we all have different personalities, and there's billions of beings on earth right now, and that hasn't gone through history, and there's different personalities, and also different times within one's life, different aspects. are useful in different ways. But this idea of a savior that comes and, you are here and has to save you. And because, what is he saving you from ultimately? Okay. Years ago, I was in India and I met this yogi. I was there in Varanasi and was having an afternoon in the Ganges there. I was sitting there and I met this yogi and an older guy, one of these sadhus covered all in, they wear like the little loincloth and with all the ashes and the, you know, dreadlocks in the hair, like a practitioner who lives just doing practice. And he asked me, oh, he spoke some English and, so, hey, where are you from? I say, from Spain. And he goes, oh, Catholic, you know. And he's, it was not a judgmental thing, but I said, yeah, I'm from Spain, we're Catholic. And he says, sin, you know. And I say, yes, sin, a lot of sin, you know. And it was very beautiful afternoon. Like, if you have never been in Varanasi, it's really like an experience that, the Ganga is there. Varanasi is considered the oldest inhabited city in the world currently. And there's like a radius of 2 miles that is on the river that is like the holiest city for Hindus. So it's constant practice. You're hitting constantly all the bells. There's several cremation grounds. There's a constant flux of pilgrims. So we're there looking at the water, and there's these kids washing the water buffaloes, and it's just like exquisite in the afternoon experience. No? So he goes, "Oh, from Spain, sin." And we sit there in silence for a moment, just absorbing the afternoon. And he goes, "You know what's true sin? You know what's true sin?" And I said, "I have no idea." Because you're gonna tell me. I hope you tell me. And he said, "Distraction, distraction, not distraction, but distraction, being distracted." Because it is through this distraction that everything else starts to crumble. Distraction from our nature leads to fear from what we experience from the outside, from what we are losing, you know. Um, and then it just snowballs down, from this fear, we generate enemies, Some enemies are very far. You might say, oh, we have to fight Iran, okay? Because they are a bunch of, uh, how did they call them the other day? Religious fanatics, okay? So some of the things seem very remote, but some of these enemies we create start being closer, people in our country, people in our community, people in our family, you know, uh, our spouses, thoughts we have in our mind. Okay. Ultimately, from a war with Iran to a country produced to a cancer triggered by trauma, there's no difference. Okay, it's a different spectrum of distraction. So, from our point of view, this is why the idea of a savior that comes and let's say yes. Okay, but ultimately, it's about each of us uh, recovering from the disease of distraction with I, distraction. So then, okay, the one who perceives reality directly, the one who recovers from this distraction, and even for a brief moment, that very moment, he or she is liberated. This sudden realization is the ultimate goal of our practice. This is our Easter. Now, the blessings of Jesus, if that's your practice, are going to flow in your being like they never flowed before. Then the yogi's body then your body is the universe. Your senses are the energies that vitalize the universe. Your mind is mantra. Everything you say is prayer. It's not a prayer anymore of, begging for help, begging for forgiveness. It's like it's this integration. This is the integration we're talking about. The rhythm of your breath is the pulse of time. Your inner nature, pure dynamic consciousness. The yogi's body is the universe, the sense, the energies that vitalize it. Her mind, mantra. The rhythm of her breath, the pulse of time. Her inner nature, pure dynamic consciousness. Raised above all practice and hence all possibility of failing to lower realms, the yogi realizes that he has always been free and that his journey through the dark land of confusion, of distraction, was nothing but a dream, a construct of his own imagination. So this is more an approach of this idea, more of inner approach, no? Of how to establish these sanctuaries of the heart, not only to visit them and to see this externally, not to only to pray to some savior that is outside, but to start taking really full responsibility for what we feel and what we experience. He who perceives reality directly, even for the brief moment it takes to blink, is liberated that very instant. This sudden realization is the ultimate goal of our practice. Although the yogi's body and mind continue to function as before after this experience of realization, they are like mere outer coverings which contain but do not obscure the mighty universal consciousness which operates through them. The yogi's body is the universe, the senses, the energies that vitalize it, his mind, mantra, prayer, the rhythm of his breath, the pulse of time. There's a beautiful, these verses come from the tradition of Kashmir Shaivism, who, for anybody who wants to understand really more the depth of more like the inner practices of Christianity, Kashmir Shaivism is a tremendous resource because it's a tradition that still, has praise to a form that is a God, that in a way is external, but at the same time presents all the practices to make that the realization that ultimately that outer experience of the divine as something outside is nothing but one's awareness. So it's very, very beautiful. Um, Raised above all practice and hence all possibility of failing to lower levels, the yogi realizes that he has always been free and that his journey through the dark land of confusion, all the suffering that we experience or we appear to experience in the world, was nothing but a dream, a construct of his own imagination. So we arrive to the present moment. Like this is just so fantastic because there's nothing extra that needs to be done. You know, like the very core of the practice, the very core of this idea of spiritual um, path, you know, of path to well-being. Like the very core is so simple. It's just establishing presence here now, and then softening, and then just sustaining that. Like when, we say, or when, the people say, oh, he has risen. Okay. It implies that he's not going down again. He has risen. Okay. So this is a beautiful way also to express, can we commit in our day-to-day to maintain a state of awareness that is doesn't fluctuate so much. Of course, it's normal, there's, but instead of being like this, can we commit to observe in our day-to-day to make a sanctuary of the heart by observing in our day-to-day what are the things that really kidnap our attention, you know, like something as simple as committing to never eating your lunch in front of the computer or looking at your phone, you know. I don't know if you noticed, so many people were sending me clips and things about these monks that walked to Washington. They spent 2 or 3 months walking. I don't know if you read the speech that the main monk gave once he reached Washington. I was actually going to read it in one of the classes, and then so first he starts by paying homage to his teacher. He basically bows at his feet and starts crying. He says, "Thanks for allowing me to do this, guiding me to do this." And then he acknowledges the people who are there, and says, "Thank you. You're here." It seems that it was raining, and then he just goes to the basics now of awareness, and he says something that made me giggle because it's something we had talked one of the first weeks. He says, "Stop multitasking." Did anybody saw that? So Jesus might have risen, but we are never going to rise like Jesus did unless we commit to this kind of awareness in day to day. So you arrive, you soften, and then the commitment is to sustain. Just that awareness that is clear, that is simple. We have talked about so many different practices, including the dream yoga practice, to try to maintain that awareness through the night. You're framing, no? You're going to bed and you're activating a command, the intention to have some lucidity through the night. You're waking up in the morning. We've talked about this many times too. Even before you open your eyes, as soon as you realize you're awake, you just connect with this sense of smile, this sense of gratitude. It's like this little healing smile and the desire that all beings are well. So you're framing. So then you start breaking that in more smaller segments, like you go down to your tea, your coffee or whatever, and you're savoring the coffee, you're present, and you remember, may all beings be happy. You go to work, this meeting that I'm going to start now may be of benefit for all. Like you sustain this awareness. That's how you create the sanctuaries of the heart. So you're present, you arrive, you soften. And let's do the alternating nostril breathing now. Okay, so then we have all these techniques that help us stabilize this experience. So at your own pace, okay? And try to do it with the Om Hong. So breathing, you do Om, then you hold Ah for a moment, and you do Hong, no? And then you breathe Om, Ah, Hong, okay? We'll do 3 rounds. Today mostly is a review of the practice, okay? As you continue doing the breathing, make sure your spine is relaxed but straight, and keep up any kind of expectation. There's no expectation of what should be happening or not. Just feel the breath. Breathing in at your own pace. And then breathing out at your own pace. Yeah, remember it's 3 with one hand, 3 with the other hand, and then 3 through the center. As you continue doing the breath, any clarity that you notice, just kind of lean into it, just very gently, like rest on the clarity and allow the clarity to continue to open. Remember the words from the Gospel of John. Jesus says, "Abide in me as I in you." This natural peace, this natural openness that is rediscovered through the breath, abide on that, abide on that. Just rest on that. This kind of peace, this kind of clarity, this kind of well-being is independent of the system. This is not something that is Buddhist or Christian or Hindu or Muslim or Jain or Taoist. Or these are systems, structures that are beautiful, but ultimately the state is beyond, like a boat. Take the boat to the shore and then the boat stays behind. So smile into the earth from your heart and smile into the heavens from your heart. So we are grounded and we are smiling to the heavens, which is represented by this beautiful flower with the sun above our head. And in the center, it can be just a sun if you want, or it can be, you can put your main teacher there. Okay, you can put Jesus or, whomever, Garchen Rinpoche, whoever is your root teacher. And then we just go for refuge. Going for refuge is so beautiful. When we go for refuge, we mingle our mind with the mind of the teacher, with the essence of the teachings. So we don't go for refuge as a victim or as a, poor me. We go for refuge because the teacher has opened a path, which is the tradition, which is like a freeway. So we just go there, or like a road that is open, so the path is already set up for us. So to the sublime teachers who have realized full awakening and unconditional love, the teachings to realize full awakening and unconditional love, and to those ahead of us on the path to realize full awakening and unconditional love, we go for refuge until full awakening. Once we reach full awakening, we don't need to keep going for refuge because we're already, we become the refuge for others. By the merit of practicing the 6 great virtues, generosity, discipline, patience, joyful effort, awareness, wisdom, may we attain full awakening for the sake of all beings. So we smile to the teacher, and from the heart of the teacher, from the beautiful sun, this beautiful sensation of light, these healing blessings just come down. We feel transported to the heart of the teacher, and the teacher feels transported to our heart. And if you just are visualizing a sun, that's perfectly fine too. So you just feel that beautiful light around you and also in your heart. And then we activate our motivation for practice. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they always rejoice in the happiness of others. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all illnesses that afflict the bodies and minds of beings be healed, and may no more illnesses ever occur again. All mother sentient beings, limitless space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious awakening. Great glorious teacher, grant your blessings so that my mind and the mind of all beings, without exception, turn to the teachings of awakening and unconditional love. We keep repeating this, no, might sound a bit repetitive, awakening and unconditional love, but that's really the essence. If these two things were established, we would not be here doing this right now. Probably we would just hiking somewhere, or golfing, or doing pottery, or we would not need to do practice. We need to do practice because awakening, it's not awakened, and unconditional love, it's not unconditional. Grant your blessings so that those teachings lead us to the path. Grant your blessings so that the path may clear away confusion. Grant your blessings so that confusion may transform into wisdom. This last prayer is called the Four Dharmas of Gampopa. I encourage everybody to memorize that and reflect on it. Om Ahom Eyam Ram Ram Lam Shude Shude Am Om Ahom Eyam Kaham Ram Lam Shude Shude Ah. So we have the world that we perceive through the senses, and that world, that whole experience is made from the five elements. Pretty much everything you see outside, you can break it down into these, five things. There's slight variations based on the tradition, but we have water, wood, fire, earth, metal. Sometimes it's considered air, okay, Akash. So this mantra puts us in resonance, and us and our environment, with this state of the five elements before they become things, before they become actual physical objects or we can perceive. Once more. Om Ahum. Eyam Kaham Ram Lam Shodhe Shodhe Ah. The ah is like this sound that takes you from more the physical world, the world of the elements, into the most subtle experience. So when you say the ah, it's soft. Second ah, then just rest. It's almost like, and I mean, we're all adults, so it's like after the moment of orgasm. I imagine everybody has at least one. So I hope. Uh, there's like this. It's actually called the visarga, the point of emission in the Sanskrit alphabet. So it's a moment in between creation and this destruction, like of recycling. I don't know exactly the word in English, but there's just a space there. So that space is a gate. Jesus in the Bible talks about the narrow gate. Okay, so in our practice, it's very important to observe the gates, the narrow gates, the spaces. One of the main that we use is the space between the in and the out breath. So the ah function is in the same way. So then we have established the structure. Okay, smile, heaven and earth. We go for refuge, activate our motivation, balance the elements, and then I just feel how your body feels. If your mind is more settled, maybe you're yawning tremendously because I'm babbling here, mumbling. That means that you're relaxed. That's good. I mentioned my teacher Juan Li. He's more a lot of these more like Taoist practices, like the healing smile. Some of these practices that we've done over the years. He's the one with whom I have mostly learned them and practiced them. And he just turned 80. Every time I see him, he looks better. It's unbelievable. You know, he's very dedicated to his practice. One of his main practices he's been actually doing and teaching, and using it as the core of his teachings is some of you already know in this practice with the 7 syllables of the chakras. Um, but taking to heart these practices and putting time every day, it makes a tremendous difference. Several of you again came to the office this week, and it just so noticeable. Anybody who is, putting time, whatever, 10, 15, 20 minutes. If you, if all of us really want to understand the meaning of He has risen, um, the mind needs to be settled, the heart needs to be open, the mind needs to be clear. The body needs to be in a state where the energy is flowing well. So then this it's not something esoteric or fancy, and I think it's just the natural state of your being. So smile to the earth again, smile to the heavens, and visualize this beautiful sphere of light above the head. And you're smiling into it, and as you smile to it, so it just shines. Okay, this is what we call the healing smile. Okay. The sphere that we call heaven above the head. So, I think most of you are familiar with the idea of the chakras and, with a series of chakras, energy centers that are in the body. In Chinese medicine, we don't talk so much about chakras. We talk about the dantians, the cauldrons. Okay, sometimes we call it internal heavens that are on the central channel. It's the same idea. Okay, and Hindus, the Tibetans explore it a bit more and in a different way. So there's different um, categories and systems, but basically there's this idea of some energy centers that are along the central channel. Okay, this is what we're doing this practice to start putting those on vibration. So usually people know about the chakra, on the top of the head, thousand petal chakra. Okay, Sahasrarama, I think it's called, but there's higher energy centers. Okay, so the next energy center is called the end of the 12. So this is when we say, if you stretch your arm, you turn your palm flat. Okay, there's an energy center there. That's where we're smiling. In the center of that energy center, there's another chakra. Okay, which is actually what we call the heart of the teacher. Okay, so when we're smiling here, we're going there. Okay, so what we're just talking about as we're visualizing this energy, you know, it's not just visualizing, but what's happening is as our smile, our loving smile that is grounded, is using the inertia that is coming from the earth, that is piercing the chakras on the central channel, okay? And it's going on the crown, it's piercing those chakras, and there's an actual flow that happens from those highest centers that has been contained that now starts happening through all the micro channels. Even though we talk, in acupuncture, we talk about, 14 main channel, 12 channels. There's 12 main channels and we have the extraordinary channels, okay? But there's thousands and thousands. There's, many, many tens of thousands of energy channels that support our whole system. So when we are smiling to these higher centers, these reservoirs of energy that were there latent, okay, now start opening, start opening. So this is what's happening here. It's not something that you just might be imagining, but it's an actual energetic process. So we smile into the sun, and this is perfectly fine. You can, imagine, your teacher there, okay? But your smile goes to the heart of the teacher. And from the heart of the teacher, there's this beautiful, blissful energy comes and just surrounds you. First in the front, then on the right, the back, the left. Fills up all space. If we were talking about, establishing a sanctuary, um, this would be the idea of establishing the outer building. Okay? This is creating this, strengthening this field, okay, that establishes the structure. And you smile up again, and now this beautiful healing light, okay, healing nectar, now starts covering your body, okay, from the crown to the face, the neck, the chest, the abdomen, the legs. And then the right side of the body, the side of the head, the ear, the the shoulder, the side of the arm, the side of the rib cage, okay? Leg, the IT band, famous IT band, all the way to the feet, to the foot, sorry. So often we despair and we don't know what to do, and something is happening in our life, and we pace around the house, or we eat chocolate, or we go shopping, or we whatever we do, we get all despair. Just do this. You're feeling a bit out of sorts. Just sit, smile, arrive, and activate the motivation that all beings are well. Call upon your teacher, um, and then just smile to this beautiful light above the head, and just feel how it surrounds you and how it starts covering your body. Okay, the front, the side, the back, your shoulders, upper back, mid back, low back, glutes, all the way down to the sole of the feet. And then at your own pace, the left side. It softens the body, it softens tension. And then you smile again into the sun above the head, to the teacher's heart, and that healing light just comes in to the crown and fills up the body from the toes to the inside. Okay? Toes to the heels, the ankles, up the legs, at your own pace, the knees, uh, the thighs, the genitals, the lower abdomen, the diaphragm, the chest, and the arms and the head. And now, little by little, the sphere of light that is above your head with the teacher, which is the sphere of light, um, starts naturally descending, and your body and this sphere of light just become one. It's called mingling with the body and mind of the teacher. Heart of the teacher descends to your heart. The sphere of light just comes and becomes one with you. You just naturally breathe at ease. Abide in me as I in you. The yogi's body, the yogini's body, the practitioner's body is the universe. Senses, the energies that vitalize it. The mind is mantra, prayer. The rhythm of the breath is the pulse of time. Our inner nature, pure dynamic consciousness. Just totally rest here, nowhere to go, nothing to do. No need to analyze, no need to visualize, just rest. So happy. It's naturally letting go of any tension, letting go of expectations. Letting go doesn't mean pushing away. Letting go means just not grasping, not holding. Raised above all practice and hence all possibility of falling to lower levels, the practitioner realizes that she has been always free, that he has been always free. And that his journey through this dark land of confusion was nothing but a dream, a construct of his own imagination. Present, soft, awake. So open your eyes if you have them closed, but do not lose the state of presence. One of the main practices that we're going to be using in Sardinia, because we'll be by the sea, and open sky. Will be we're going to walk up some hikes, and we'll be high. We can see the sky. Um, those of you who are not coming, you can also do it. Can go to the lake, or you can climb the hills of Rochester Hills. Can go to the top of your condo, and you just rest. So you engage in some form like we did of arriving, and then you just rest with your eyes open. The gaze is relaxed. You're not focused on anything specific. Okay, just open, it's relaxed. This is called sky gazing. Right now I'm doing curtain gazing because I have a curtain in front of me, but it can also be practiced in front of a wall that is, is in the Zen centers. They do that. If you've ever been in a Zen center, they're just facing the wall. It's more beautiful if and if you do it on an open sky. So gently close the eyes again. So we're going to repeat the closing and opening the eyes, 2, 3 times. Don't do anything yet. I just want you to observe how, when we close our eyes, obviously the amount of input that comes from the senses is minimized, okay? Because we're very visual and, we close the eyes and, you might see some light or some forms or something that are remaining from whatever you were looking at. But it is more a sense of being able to feel like you're gathered. And then once you're going to open your eyes, naturally, the world is all there again, and thoughts naturally start or um, are more prominent. So the goal, or one of the goals in practice, is to be able to experience this sense of interiorization that is grounded while keeping the eyes open. So just feel yourself present and grounded. And then at your own pace, little by little, slowly, just open your eyes and notice, how your awareness shifts. There's nothing wrong with the outer world, okay? So there's nothing wrong with perceiving the outer world. It's actually very beautiful and very enjoyable. But as practitioners, we're aiming to maintain a percentage of our awareness looking inside. Okay? So this is, I don't know that we've ever talked about this in this way. Um, so again, at your own pace, before you close your eyes, just notice how your awareness feels with eyes open. And then gently close the eyes. And at your own pace, you can open them again in the same way. So ultimately, what we are looking for is not the integration of the different aspects of different traditions. What we are looking for is the integration of wakeful, loving awareness into our experience of the world, into our experience of day to day, into our experience of our relationships. That's the kind of rising that seems to be more useful. That doesn't mean that we can, obviously it's beautiful and to have devotion and to celebrate and to acknowledge, and there's some great beings, Jesus being one of them that come to teach humanity. But ultimately, it's up to each of us to practice. This, don't do it driving, okay? But this arriving, softening, sustaining, and anywhere you are, like, but driving or managing anything that, you have to be fully focused forward. Okay? Just play a little bit with this, closing the eyes and then seeing how you feel, and then very gently opening. And then you can also do this with the other senses, no? Like with the hearing, for example, no? So it's easier if you close your eyes, but just hear, like see what sounds are there. You can be hearing my voice or, whatever sounds are in your house. And then just reverse the hearing towards the inside. So the goal is neither outside nor inside. It's just like this point in between. I hope everybody understands it. By no means is my intention to offend anybody with my personal opinions about Jesus and Christianity. And I was raised Catholic, so I obviously have a strong opinion about what I lived and what I think would do a much, much bigger favor to the figure of Jesus. But that's just my opinion. So. It's just comedy. Anyway, um, let's do 3-4 minutes of the Omahung breath. So there's a lot of practices or a lot of, let's say, transformation, personal growth, alchemical inner processes that are happening with what we call the lower dantian, the lower cauldron, or the chakra that is, in the area of the navel or just behind the navel, below the navel. And then the energetic pathway that goes up through the center into the crown and up. Okay? So the Omahung has the ability to clean that very nicely. It also has the ability to put the energy body on a vibration that is much more attuned with our essence. Just as a side note, sometime back, there's some records, who knows, that actually there's a period of time in Jesus' life that he kind of, nobody knows where he is. So there's some records that he had spent some time in the Himalayas. I have a nice book, who knows, but it's called Jesus Was in India. And so that would account for a lot of the miracles that happened later. So in terms of the type of training and, stories of other yogis. Beautiful book. So just feel the breath. Om. Ah. So the first thing you do always is just find yourself. Arrive. And then just find the breath. And this, again, this breathing practice, we are not trying to alter anything. This is a practice that will self-correct anything that is happening that is constrained. It's not like a forceful. Just feel yourself present, bring the awareness to the breath. Naturally, as you bring the awareness to the breath, you're gonna like adjust your posture, the diaphragm is gonna soften, the lungs are gonna expand. And recognize the sound of the breath. There's a very gentle hissing as the breath comes in, goes out. So then once you have found the breath, you have recognized the sound of the breath. So now the mantra writes the breath. So as you breathe in with that hissing sound of the breath, you hear Om. When it rests in the area behind the navel, you hear Ah or you feel Ah. And then as it goes out, you feel or hear Om. There's a practice where we just verbally chant Om Ahum, Om Ahum, Om Ahum. And this practice is very subtle. It's almost like just the sound of the breath has like that little feeling of Om. The silence has that feeling of Ah. The exhale has that feeling of Om. So you continue practicing, especially if you have, you could do the Om Ahum any time of the day. You don't need to do any preparation. But if you have time, everything we've done is kind of even though every section is a complete practice on itself, it's almost like also like a build-up of foreplay. So then what comes afterwards keeps like fine-tuning and refining the experience. Yeah, and I know every time I say the same thing, I cannot overemphasize the the benefits of doing, Om Ahum breathing every day. Garchen Rinpoche says, the mental recitation of the syllables Om Ahung in conjunction with the breath, this is in the handout, helps us recognize the nature of mind beyond thoughts. So I referred to this earlier, like just not the Om Ahung, but you're doing the alternating nostril breathing, you're doing the healing smile, you're chanting the 5-element mantra. At some point, you know, it's unavoidable that you notice that there's like a sense of peace, of calmness in the mind, okay? So now you lean on that. Very often the natural of the tendency of the mind is going to be, oh yeah, I recognize that, but I move to the next thing, okay? Because though I'm so busy with the world. You know? So now is the opposite. Here is like you recognize that, and then you lean into that. You almost like melt into that. That's what is going to make the stabilization. So we talked, arrive, soften, but that keeps happening all the time because we don't stabilize. So the way to stabilize is when you experience these moments of inner peace, almost kind of melt into them, like give your attention into them. They are like recycling plants. They're just gonna transform that tension into a state of presence. We're looking for one pointed concentration with the concentration. That's why we breathe in and out. We're following the path to develop one pointedness. Okay, the dedication prayers. By the virtue of our practice, may the sublime awakened mind, the heart of unconditional love. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. By virtue of our practice, may the sublime awakened mind, the heart of unconditional love, arise where it has not arisen, where it has arisen may never decline, but continue to grow forevermore. So even all these people, even ourselves, in everybody's heart, at some point, there has been some love, Even the person that seems most violent, and most, they love something, even if it's themselves, in a weird, awkward way. So may that love continue to grow forevermore. And may the growth of all beings, may the love of all beings grow in their hearts towards everybody. Great glorious teacher, grant your blessing. No, you read this before. Whatever true joy and happiness there is, all comes from a mind that seeks the benefit of others. Therefore, may all mother sentient beings, limitless of space, have a mind of loving kindness. May all beings have a mind of loving kindness. May all beings decide, reject, engaging in any kind of behavior that harms others. May all beings commit to establishing open communication to solve challenges. May self-grasping ignorance, the cause of all intolerable suffering that mother sentient beings, limitless as space, must endure in the six realms, be fully pacified. May all beings care for one another with altruistic compassion. Anytime you're looking at the news these days or hearing something about something, there's so much to hear about. This should be our thought. May all beings care for one another with altruistic compassion. May all beings have a mind of loving kindness. May the Jesus that is wakeful love rise in the hearts of all beings, not just there somewhere in a cross, somewhere once a year. Yeah, so I get all emo and have a barbecue with my friends. But rise in the heart of all beings every moment. That's the kind of He has risen we should be hoping for. By the merit of having practiced healing meditation for the benefit of all myself and all other beings, may all beings without exception be well and happy. May there be peace in all lands, prosperity in all households, and joy in all hearts across all time and space. And may all the motivation prayers made for the well-being of beings come to fruition.